talking about the trades that happened, Jakob Chychrun, we have to talk about it. It's all we've been talking about for about a year, and we finally saw that trade go down. It was kind of the thing we were all waiting for. There was, I think, someone in the narratives, at least on Twitter and in our chat and in our Discord, was maybe that you didn't get the return that people thought was the ask. What can you tell us about what you had been asking and how things unfolded for you to get the return that you ended up getting?
This story could go on. We could literally have a whole show about this trade. It's a great question. First of all, if you look at some of the trades that have gone down in the past, and you take Dougie Hamilton, and he got traded, I believe, went from Boston to Calgary, and they got a first and 2 seconds. The first went at 15, and the 2 seconds were mid-range second-round picks. He had won the Calder the year before. He was 21 years old. That was their return. But the return was based on where the pick lied in the first round, because there's different tiers. There's 1 to 5, 6 to 12, 13 to 20, and 21 to 32. And there's a different ranges in the draft. And so, we could have looked unbelievable, and I could walk here and say, oh, we got 2 first rounders. We got pick 27 and we got pick 32, and we got a C-level prospect that we didn't like. And, everybody goes, oh my God, they got 2 first rounders. And listen, that was our ask. We wanted to make sure we walked through the door with 2 first rounders and try and get a prospect out of it. Well, the lay of the land at the time, changed for us, because there was teams that would give us that, but we would take anywhere from $11 million back to $3.1 million back. And that didn't make any sense for us to get our ask. And at the same time, when this Ottawa deal came upon us, we realized, okay, listen, there's a good chance we're going to pick between 11 to 15 with Ottawa. You can take 27 and 32 as picks, and you can get up to 14. That's the best you can do. So in the ranges, that's where it gets misconceived, that everybody says, oh, you get your first round pick. Where does the first round pick lie in what range? And so when we figured, okay, listen, and then the year before, we had a deal on the table from a team that was interested at Chick at the draft. And the biggest thing, the best we could get was the close. I think it was the pick was somewhere between 12 and 15. So we knew, what we were talking about was in range where that's what we could get last year at the time. And now we could not only get this range 11 to 15, but we could also get 2 seconds. I mean, we don't know where Washington's going to be next year. Who knows who they sign in the summer. And we also get Ottawa's pick, but it was a no-brainer for us because we have an ability to pick high in that range. Now, we also studied, what Ottawa's pretty good at home. They're pretty good home record, but they're below 500, and the majority of their games are against tough competition down the stretch. I think they've got the 3rd worst
strength of schedule.
Strength of schedule. So we took a chance on that to get a high pick in that range. Listen, if everything falls the Yotes way and the hockey gods strike for us, we could pick at 6.
I know Leah wants to ask you about that risk, but I want to dive into those tiers a little bit more. Like when you pick 1 to 5, I think everybody knows that's where you might get franchise players. Yeah. What's the difference then between 6 and 12 and then that next range and then the last range? What are you talking on average? What usually comes out of those tiers?
Yeah, normally the top end tier, the top 5, those are the 1-2 defensemen that you're looking for. Yeah. You're looking for a top end center, a top line scoring guy that can get you 50 goals. That's what you're looking 1 to 5. And it just drops a little bit from 5 to 12. 6 to 12 in that range, but you're hoping to get the same player at 1 to 5. You're just hoping to be a better scouting staff.
Yeah.
Then when you get out of that range and you get into 13 to 20, you're hoping that, on your biggest day, you hit a Robert Thomas out of the park. There's a good NHL player there, but he's probably not going to be a star. You're hoping for, Jaden Swartz would be a guy that you hope for in that range, that he's going to play a long time. He's going to be a point producer. He's going to be a little bit under a point a game, and you're going to be happy with him. And then when you're in the final range, probably 21 to 32, most times you get a 3rd line guy. You get a 5th, 6th defenseman. That's what you mostly get out of that range. And if you hit it like out of the park which, we became good, in St. Louis, just because you get into that range and you get into the 26th pick, and you study those ranges. I think we became good, but most times, most teams get a third line player out of that range. So I think knowing the ranges and know that we know, it's a deeper dive. And it's funny to me, like there was criticism, and let's be honest, I mean, as a GM, you get a lot of criticism. That's you sign up for that. Yeah. I get criticism in the house that I didn't take the garbage out. So I'm not opposed to having criticism, but what I do find interesting, nobody knows where that pick lies. And yet they were so quick to jump on us that we didn't get this big, sexy return. And we kind of knew that at the time, but our job is to do the right thing. And we feel the pick is going to lie somewhere between 11 to 15. That's going to give us a good chance at a really good player. And with all our back picks, we could also accelerate that if there was a team willing to take a chance or didn't like what was in front of them or felt they could get their player later, we might be moving up. There's a lot of different options that we have that I like.
I'd like to encourage people, because we looked at this after you mentioned this. Craig and I went and did a little deep dive over. We weren't as analytic as you guys are, but we went go picks 1 through 15 and then 16 through 32. And everybody encouraged over the last 10 years, go look at the first half of the first round and the second half of the first round. And the players are astoundingly different in those ranges. There are the odd picks that are great players.
The Thompsons.
Right,
and
they're there.
Yep, the Robert Thomases.
So then for you, as
Sean
you see this.
You mentioned him.
Yeah, Tage, I know.
Big
right?
Buffalo fan.
So there's conditions on this Jakob Chychrun pick.
Yep.
So now, are you, and I want to say rooting is not the right word, you're following the Ottawa Senators to say, okay, let's hope they fall as far as they can, or in the odd mythical world where they actually win the Eastern, get to the Eastern Conference Finals, that picks another first.
Yeah.
So we've encouraged our people to cheer for Ottawa to win it all or just lose miserably.
Yeah. And like I've always had the thought process, my mother taught me, this is not good to root, bad for other people. So I just, try not to.
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. And then that's the best way to do it. And my dad taught me that, plan for the best and plan for the worst. And I think we've tried to do that with what we've done here, but proof's in the pudding, right? So where we're sitting 5 years from now, it'll I feel good about it, and I feel good about what our staff has picked from before and what they've been able to dig out of the draft, even in an early sample from the Oats has been very good.
Yeah, well, there's the other thing though, and you mentioned it, you did some analysis on Ottawa's schedule down the stretch, but by trading them Chychrun, you did make them a little bit better. He's a great player. So how did you dissect that risk, giving them a player that's going to make them better down the stretch? As, we're not rooting for anyone to fail, but Coyotes fans are very interested in how the Senators finish.
The East is a different animal with the teams that they have in there. So even though we gave them Chick, who's a really good player that's going to help them become a better team, we felt the East was so stacked, and with their schedule, it was so tough that it's going to be a hard one for them to overcome that to get into the playoffs. And if they do that, can they move up? And that's we're betting on our analytical team a little bit on that one, that the odds are against them, and we'll see where it lies.
I just one real quick follow up on Chychrun, and then we'll leave him. This looks from the outside, it's a player that's happy to be in that city. It's an organization that's happy with the return. You just said so. Is there a sense of relief even into the locker room with the players and the coaches who liked Chychrun? I'm not saying that they didn't, but it's that this saga is over.
Correct. Yeah. Well, there's, like I said, we could write a book on this. It was interesting, some of the stuff that, people, give, reporters ask you, and stuff gets kind of laid out. Like the guy said, you guys went through this whole saga for that. I'm like, hold on, let's back up. He was injured for 8 months. Yeah. And previous to that, he was minus 20 and he had a terrible season. It's hard to trade a player that had a terrible season and he's out, on 2 surgeries. And I'm like, you guys, you twist things around, but he had been injured for long periods of time. So our whole thing was, okay, how we're going to maximize this trade is we're going to get him back to health, which takes time. It took 8 months to get him back to playing time. And then we're going to put him in there. And, and we had great talks with him, and he was so professional about it. He was just unreal. And our coaching staff, we found good places to play him, and his game took off, and then that was when we had the chance to trade him. But let's be honest, when you haven't played 38% of your last 2 seasons, what's the first thing a GM says to you on the other line of that phone? Is like, he's injured a lot.
Yeah.
Price got to go down a little bit. So let's be honest about where it is. We were so excited for Chick that he landed in Ottawa because we tried to work with the player. And he worked with us in saying that he wanted out. We wanted to get the most that we possibly could for him. And so to see him go to where he's, his family is from, and his sister lives there, and it's a great setup for him. And I think he was excited about it too. And hopefully we were able to land him where he wanted to go.